The first sign came quietly, almost like a whisper through the radio waves. Across the globe, strange signals began appearing in communication systems. Some were dismissed as glitches, but others were too structured to ignore. Scientists quickly noticed patterns, rhythms that resembled intelligence. Governments scrambled teams to analyze the signals. News outlets reported anomalies, and soon the world realized that humanity was receiving a message from outside the planet. The message was from an entity calling itself the Galactic Council, a name that sparked curiosity and fear. The Council's message was simple and firm. It warned Earth to remain neutral in cosmic affairs, to halt any research that could extend humanity's reach beyond the planet, and to accept a form of surveillance from the Council. The message made it clear that disobedience could have consequences. For some, it was terrifying. For others, it was an invitation. Scientists and world leaders debated fiercely. Was this a threat or an opportunity? Could humanity ignore the Council, or was the galaxy truly more dangerous than anyone had imagined? Dr. Elena Cross, a leading astrophysicist, spent sleepless nights trying to decode the Council's signals. She was brilliant and driven, with a mind that could imagine the unimaginable. She saw the Council not just as a warning, but as a challenge. "We cannot live our lives in fear of what is out there," she told her colleagues. "This is our chance to learn, to explore, to stand on our own." Her words inspired a small group of scientists and engineers who began working secretly on ways to communicate back. Ways that could show humanity's intelligence without seeming aggressive. Captain Rajan Mehta, a military strategist, saw things differently. He understood the power of the Council and feared what might happen if humans acted recklessly. Yet even he could not ignore the excitement in the air. Across Earth, people were talking about possibilities that had once belonged only to science fiction. Children asked their parents about aliens. Students debated the meaning of the Council's message. And even those who had lived skeptical lives felt the thrill of being part of history. The world's leaders convened emergency summits. From Washington to Beijing, London to Canberra, governments tried to decide the right course of action. Publicly, they spoke of cooperation and caution. Behind closed doors, however, some nations began developing secret technologies, building advanced communication arrays and early warning systems. Humanity was divided. Some believed in compliance and safety. Others believed in curiosity and boldness. The debates were heated, often becoming arguments about trust, morality, and survival. Meanwhile, strange things began to happen. Satellites picked up anomalies that no one could explain. Patterns in deep space seemed to shift as if something or someone was watching. The Council's warning was serious, but humanity could not ignore the feeling that the universe was far larger and more complex than anyone had imagined. In quiet labs and secret meetings, humans began to prepare. They were not sure what they were preparing for, but instinct told them it was more than just a warning. As the days passed, public reaction grew intense. People around the world experienced a mix of fear and excitement. News networks ran stories nonstop about the Council and what it might mean. Some citizens panicked, hoarding supplies and demanding protection. Others were inspired, volunteering for research programs or simply gazing at the stars, imagining what awaited beyond. Humanity was experiencing a collective awakening, an understanding that life on Earth was connected to something much greater. Dr. Cross and Captain Mehta began meeting secretly with others who shared their vision. Engineers, programmers, astronomers, and even philosophers gathered in hidden labs. They brainstormed ways to send a controlled message back to the Council, a message that would show humanity's intelligence and readiness to participate in the galaxy without directly defying authority. It was a delicate task. One wrong signal could provoke retaliation. Yet the group felt a sense of destiny. They believed that Earth had a right to be recognized as a player in cosmic affairs. The team worked. The world around them continued in a mix of routine and chaos. Economies wavered as governments allocated funds for secret projects. Citizens noticed changes in communication networks, strange broadcasts, and unexplainable blackouts. Conspiracy theories spread rapidly, some claiming the council was a myth, others insisting that the world had already been observed and judged. Fear was everywhere, but so was hope. Humanity had faced challenges before, but this was unlike anything anyone had experienced. One night, while staring at the signal patterns on her monitor, Dr. Cross noticed something unusual. Hidden within the council's message were fragments of information that did not belong to the council. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but the sequences hinted at a presence far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. She shared her discovery with Captain Meta, who immediately understood the implications. Humanity was not just being warned, it was being watched by something else. Something ancient, powerful, and deadly. The realization changed the urgency of their work. It was no longer just about sending a polite message back to the council. Humanity needed to understand what was out there. To prepare for challenges beyond imagination, Dr. Cross and Captain Meta knew that failure could mean extinction, but they also felt a surge of determination. The world had never faced such a moment, and for the first time, humans understood that courage, ingenuity, and unity would be their only tools against the unknown. As months passed, secret labs around the world expanded their research. Satellites were recalibrated, deep space sensors became more sensitive, and encryption methods were refined to send messages without detection. The Council continued to broadcast its warnings, but humanity's response was growing bolder. People everywhere sensed a shift. For the first time, humans were no longer just inhabitants of Earth, they were citizens of the galaxy. Aware of dangers, capable of creativity, and determined to carve their place in the universe. Despite the fear, excitement, and uncertainty, one fact became clear: humanity had been noticed, and the universe was listening. What came next was unknown, but for the first time, humans felt that they could meet the unknown not as passive subjects, but as equals in intelligence and spirit. The choice to challenge the Council or to comply would shape the future of the planet. Every decision, every calculation, every secret signal sent into the stars could tip the balance. And somewhere in the dark reaches of space, the first hints of a deadlier presence were watching humanity carefully, waiting to see what would happen next. In that quiet moment, as Dr. Cross studied the flickering patterns and Captain Meta checked the arrays, a shared understanding passed between them. Humanity had stepped onto a path that could not be undone. Fear and wonder coexisted, and the universe had opened its door. No one knew what lay beyond. But one thing was certain: Earth would never be the same again. The world was divided, but the debate was no longer theoretical. The Council had sent a clear message: halt all advanced research or face consequences. Governments held emergency sessions, scientists argued passionately, and citizens debated on every platform available. For some, the Council's warning was terrifying. For others, it was proof that humans were finally part of something bigger. Across the planet, whispers of curiosity and defiance began to spread. Dr. Elena Cross knew the Council's message was not just a warning, it was a test. She gathered her team in a secure lab, far from prying eyes. The room was filled with computers, satellites, and communication arrays, all set up to probe the depths of space. "We cannot ignore this," she said firmly. "The Council expects us to obey. But we also have the right to learn, to explore, to show that humanity is intelligent and capable. We have one chance to respond, and we must do it carefully." Her team nodded, understanding the risk. A single misstep could provoke retaliation, yet doing nothing meant surrender. Meanwhile, Captain Rajan Meta oversaw the security side of their operations. He had been trained to anticipate threats, to prepare for conflict, and to act decisively. He reviewed global intelligence and noticed something disturbing: anomalies in space traffic that did not match any known spacecraft or natural phenomenon. Someone or something was observing humanity. "This is not just about the Council," he said. "We are being watched by forces far more powerful. We must prepare for anything." His warning brought urgency to their work. Across the world, citizens were reacting in unexpected ways. In Tokyo, a group of engineers built a small observatory on a rooftop to track strange signals. In Paris, students created simulations to analyze the Council's patterns. In Nairobi, scientists worked secretly in university labs to refine deep space communication arrays. Humanity's response was not limited to governments or military. People everywhere, driven by curiosity and courage, began to contribute. The planet was waking up to the reality that it was not alone, and that survival and progress depended on collective effort. Some nations pretended to comply publicly, halting obvious research and broadcasting messages of obedience to the Council. Secretly, however, they accelerated development. Satellites were upgraded, encryption was strengthened, and small fleets of unmanned exploratory craft were launched. Dr. Cross. Every signal sent, every observation collected, was carefully documented. Humanity was preparing to show the galaxy that it could think, plan, and act independently. Ethical debates raged. Could humanity risk angering a being far more powerful than any nation or alliance on Earth? Could scientists justify their secret projects knowing the potential consequences? Some argued that compliance was the only safe path. Others insisted that stagnation was unacceptable. Public forums were filled with arguments and counterarguments, and media outlets amplified the voices of both fear and hope. The planet was divided, but beneath the debate, a quiet determination began to grow. Dr. Cross discovered subtle patterns in the Council's transmissions. Hidden in the warnings were hints about a presence far older and more dangerous than the Council itself. The sequences were brief, almost like a code embedded within a code, but they suggested intelligence beyond the Council's authority. Captain Meta reviewed the data and confirmed the danger. Humanity was not only being warned, but also observed by a force that had remained hidden. It was patient, powerful, and deadly. The team realized they were dealing with more than diplomacy. They were facing a potential threat that the Council itself feared. The Council's warnings became more urgent. They emphasized surveillance, the halting of certain research, and the potential consequences of disobedience. The message reached every corner of Earth, creating fear and uncertainty. Governments tried to reassure citizens, claiming that the Council sought only peace. Yet people felt the tension in their daily lives. Strange patterns in communications, unexplained blackouts, and subtle manipulations of technology suggested that humanity's every move was being watched. It was a reminder that the galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous. Dr. Cross proposed a bold plan. Instead of remaining silent or blindly obeying, humanity could send a controlled signal to the Council. It would be a demonstration of intelligence and capability, a way to assert Earth's presence without being openly hostile. Captain Meta added security measures, ensuring that the signal could be sent without revealing Earth's full capabilities or inviting direct attack. The team worked tirelessly, refining the signal, testing it, and simulating potential responses. Every step required caution and precision, but hope and determination drove them forward. The first test transmissions were sent quietly. They traveled into deep space, undetectable to all but the intended recipients. Within hours, anomalies appeared in satellite readings, minor disruptions that suggested the Council had noticed. Humanity had acted, and the first step of its challenge had begun. Around the world, Dr. Cross and Captain Meta monitored the signals, watching for any reaction. There was no immediate response, but subtle changes in communication patterns hinted that the Council and something else was paying close attention. Meanwhile, the global reaction was growing. People spoke of humanity taking its first step into the galaxy. Media outlets covered stories of secret observatories, brave scientists, and unexplained space phenomena. Citizens debated the risks and rewards. Some argued that humanity was inviting danger it could not survive. Others believed that this was the moment humans had been waiting for, a chance to prove themselves, to show that Earth could think, act, and compete on a galactic scale. The planet was alive with discussion, tension, and curiosity. The deadliest species, as the team had begun to call it, remained unseen but increasingly influential. Patterns in space suggested intelligence, a presence that could manipulate energy, craft, and information across vast distances. It was neither hostile nor friendly, it was assessing. Humanity's signals had reached beyond the Council, drawing attention from a being whose power dwarfed all expectations, Dr. Cross and Captain. Meta understood that any misstep could provoke the species. But careful action might earn its recognition. Humanity was now on the edge of a vast unknown where courage, creativity, and unity were the only weapons. As weeks passed, the team refined their understanding. Every discovery led to new questions. What did the deadliest species want? How would the Council react? Could humanity survive in a galaxy filled with intelligence far beyond its own? Citizens around the world began to prepare for potential crises. Schools held lessons about space, governments trained specialists, and communities developed emergency plans. It was a quiet revolution, driven not by fear alone but by awareness and responsibility. In a secure lab, Dr. Cross looked at the patterns on her monitor late one night. The signals were faint, but their meaning was clear. Humanity had been noticed, and the galaxy was responding. Captain Meta stood beside her, reviewing data on anomalies, disruptions, and subtle cosmic signals. "We are no longer just Earthlings," he said quietly. "We are part of something bigger, something dangerous, but also full of possibility." Dr. Cross nodded, feeling a mix of fear and hope. Humanity had chosen its path. The challenge was set, and the universe had begun to watch. In that moment, the world felt both small and immense. The debates, the fears, the risks, all of it led to this point. Humanity was awake, aware, and ready to act. The Council had delivered its warning, the deadliest species had taken note, and Earth's people were stepping into a new chapter of existence. It was uncertain, it was dangerous, but it was the beginning of a journey that would change everything. And as the team sent another carefully coded message into the depths of space, they knew one truth: humanity had chosen to challenge the limits. And the universe would never see Earth the same way again. The first sign that humanity was no longer alone in its defiance came quietly, almost imperceptibly. Small anomalies appeared in communication satellites, patterns in deep space shifted, and instruments began picking up faint energy surges that could not be explained by natural phenomena. Dr. Elena Cross noticed the changes while analyzing the Council's latest transmission. "It's not just the Council," she said to Captain Rajan Meta. "Something else is observing us, something intelligent. And it's closer than we realized." Captain Meta studied the data, his expression grave. "Then our challenge has attracted attention," he said. "We need to be ready for whatever comes next." The Council had reacted to humanity's first subtle signals, but in unexpected ways. Instead of the stern reprimand most governments expected, the Council seemed confused, almost intrigued. A few members had even whispered in private meetings that humanity's audacity was remarkable. They had never seen a species respond with calculated defiance, combining intelligence and caution so effectively. Publicly, however, the Council maintained its warnings, emphasizing surveillance and compliance. Humanity had caught the attention of the galaxy, and the consequences were beginning to take shape. Dr. Cross and her team focused on interpreting the signals and anomalies. And there was a rhythm to the disturbances, a pattern that suggested a presence both aware and capable. It was not overtly hostile, but neither was it welcoming. Humanity had, for the first time, sent a message that transcended Earth, the deadliest species, as the team had begun to call it, had detected the transmissions. It was assessing humanity, calculating the risks and potential value of a species that dared to challenge the Council. Every satellite ping, every energy fluctuation, became a sign of awareness, a silent acknowledgement from the unseen observer. At the same time, life on Earth continued with a sense of quiet urgency. News of the Council's messages had spread, and citizens were adjusting to the idea that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Schools held lessons about interstellar communication. Universities hosted debates about ethics and risk, and communities discussed preparation for potential cosmic events. Fear and excitement mixed, but more importantly, people began to realize that survival in a larger universe required ingenuity and cooperation. Dr. Cross's work was becoming not just scientific, but symbolic proof that humans could act with intelligence and purpose on a galactic scale. "Captain," Meta coordinated with governments to monitor anomalies and potential threats. Military satellites, civilian sensors, and secret deep space observatories worked in unison. The patterns in the signals suggested intelligence beyond human comprehension. Every discovery carried the possibility of insight or danger. "We are not just sending messages anymore," Captain Meta said during a briefing. "We are part of a larger system, and that system is watching us very closely." His words emphasized the stakes. Humanity had acted boldly, but the universe was responding with complexity and uncertainty. The deadliest species made its presence known in subtle, almost invisible ways. Minor disruptions appeared in communication networks. Satellites occasionally went offline without explanation, and patterns in cosmic radiation shifted unexpectedly. None of these incidents caused panic. They were too subtle, but Dr. Cross and her team knew their meaning. Humanity was being tested, observed, and perhaps even judged. Each anomaly was a reminder that the galaxy contained intelligence far beyond Earth's experience. Yet it was not hostility, not yet. It was a patient assessment, a calculation of capability and intent. Humanity's response was cautious, but determined. Dr. Cross refined the signals, ensuring that every message carried intelligence and cooperation rather than aggression. Captain Meta implemented security measures, protecting Earth systems while maintaining the flow of communication. Across the globe, engineers and scientists worked in coordinated secrecy, preparing for scenarios that no one could fully predict. Humanity was stepping into the galaxy's larger stage, where curiosity, creativity, and caution were essential for survival. Despite the tension, there were moments of hope and inspiration. People everywhere felt a sense of purpose. Volunteers contributed to research programs, engineers developed new technologies, and ordinary citizens discussed strategies for understanding the universe. Humanity's challenge was no longer theoretical, it was real, immediate, and demanding. Every discovery brought both excitement and responsibility. The deadliest species was not an abstract threat. It was a living presence, monitoring, calculating, and waiting. Humanity had awakened a force that the Council itself feared, and now Earth people had to respond with wisdom and courage. One evening, Dr. Cross noticed a new pattern in the anomalies. The signals were subtle but unmistakable, a rhythm that suggested communication or observation by the deadliest species. She called Captain Meta to the lab. "This is more than monitoring," she said. "They are learning from us, responding to our signals, and perhaps testing our reactions. Every message we send is being analyzed. We are not just observers anymore. We are participants?" Captain Meta nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Humanity had become part of a cosmic experiment, evaluated not for weakness, but for intelligence, courage, and potential. Governments began to take the implications seriously. Emergency summits were held to discuss strategy, but the challenge was unprecedented. Humanity had never faced a force of such scale and intelligence. Ethical debates intensified. Could humans continue sending signals without risking annihilation? Should the species be confronted, studied, or ignored? The questions were difficult, but the answer was clear to Dr. Cross and her team. Humanity had to act. To demonstrate capability, creativity, and determination without provoking immediate hostility across the planet. Ordinary citizens felt the change in subtle ways. Communication systems occasionally flickered, satellites showed brief anomalies, and strange lights appeared in the night sky. These events were small but pervasive. People spoke of curiosity, fear, and wonder. Children looked up at the stars with new questions. Adults debated the meaning of human existence in the galaxy. Humanity's consciousness had expanded beyond the boundaries of Earth. The deadliest species was watching, learning and waiting for a response. In a quiet lab, Dr. Cross and Captain Meta sent another carefully coded signal. It was subtle, intelligent, and non-threatening. The transmission carried the essence of human capability, creativity, reasoning, and a willingness to engage. Almost immediately, instruments picked up energy fluctuations in response. The deadliest species had noticed, perhaps even recognized, the message. It was the first direct sign that humanity's actions mattered beyond Earth. For the first time, humans had become participants in a larger cosmic dialogue. Though the outcome remained uncertain. As the weeks passed, the team continued to refine communications and observe responses. Every anomaly, every fluctuation, every subtle disruption in networks was recorded and analyzed. Humanity was learning, adapting, and growing more aware of the galaxy's complexity. The Council maintained its warnings, but the team could sense a shift. Even the Council seemed to understand that humanity could not be ignored, that Earth had intelligence, creativity, and courage that demanded attention. The deadliest species remained elusive, patient, and powerful. It did not intervene directly, but its presence was undeniable. Humanity had sent signals, demonstrated intelligence, and attracted the attention of a force that few species could survive encountering. Every message, every observation was a test. Humanity was learning that survival required more than technology. It required patience, strategy, and understanding of forces far beyond human comprehension. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta realized that the challenge had changed. It was no longer just about responding to the Council. It was about preparing for a force that could alter the fate of Earth in ways humans could barely imagine. The deadliest species was watching, learning, and calculating. Humanity's path was uncertain, dangerous, and full of possibility. The universe had responded to human defiance, and the implications were enormous. Every choice mattered. Every signal carried weight. As the team monitored the cosmos, a sense of both awe and responsibility settled over them. Humanity had acted boldly, and the universe had noticed. The deadliest species was assessing, patient and silent, yet unmistakably present. The Council watched as well, both cautious and curious. Humanity was no longer a passive observer of the galaxy. It had become a participant, tested by forces far beyond Earth's experience. And in that quiet understanding, Dr. Cross and Captain Meta knew one truth: the next steps would define not just survival, but the future of humanity among the stars. Humanity had reached a turning point. The Council's warnings had become more urgent, but the deadliest species remained the true unknown, its presence subtle but undeniable. Humanity's scientists, engineers, and leaders worked tirelessly, trying to understand the vast forces now observing them. Dr. Elena Cross and Captain Rajan Meta coordinated the efforts from a secure facility, knowing that every decision could have global consequences. The world was awake, aware, and uncertain, but for the first time, humanity acted with a sense of shared purpose. The deadliest species had made its first subtle move. Minor disruptions appeared in satellites. Communication networks experienced anomalies, and energy fields in certain regions of space flickered in unusual patterns. None of these incidents caused immediate danger, but they were reminders that humanity was being watched by an intelligence far beyond the Council's reach. Dr. Cross studied the patterns, noting that they were not random. They suggested thought, assessment, and an evaluation of human capabilities. Humanity was being tested, and the test was growing more complex. The Council tried to intervene indirectly. Some members offered cryptic advice, revealing fragments of knowledge about the deadliest species. They spoke of power, patience, and intelligence that humans had never encountered. Yet even the Council admitted limitations. They had never fully controlled or understood this species. Dr. Cross realized that humanity could not rely on the Council for protection. The challenge was theirs alone. Earth had become a stage for forces beyond imagination, and humanity's future depended on ingenuity, courage, and unity. Global response intensified. Nations coordinated in ways never seen before, combining scientific research, defense strategies, and deep space communication efforts. Laboratories in Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas worked in sync, sharing information secretly. Satellites were upgraded, encryption systems fortified, and small exploratory probes sent beyond the solar system to monitor energy anomalies. Humanity was not just reacting, it was adapting, preparing for the possibility of direct contact or confrontation. Within Dr. Cross's team, tension and determination mixed. Every day brought new discoveries and new questions. Anomalies in space suggested that the deadliest species could manipulate energy and information across vast distances. Every signal humanity sent was measured and assessed. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta realized that Earth had to act carefully. Even the smallest misstep could provoke retaliation, yet failing to act could make humanity appear weak. Their solution was strategy: send controlled signals that demonstrated intelligence, cooperation, and curiosity without aggression. Citizens around the world began to feel the weight of the situation. In cities and towns, schools held lessons about interstellar communication. Public forums debated ethics, strategy, and survival. Ordinary people contributed in small but meaningful ways, from helping engineers test software to monitoring local observatories for anomalies. Humanity's awareness had expanded beyond Earth. People felt connected not only to each other but to a larger cosmic reality. The planet was alive with purpose, hope, and tension. As weeks passed, Dr. Cross noticed new patterns in the anomalies. Signals from deep space suggested observation, but also an intelligence that was curious and patient. The deadliest species was neither aggressive nor neutral. It was assessing humanity's responses, studying its capabilities, and determining whether Earth could survive in a larger cosmic order. Captain Meta reviewed security protocols, realizing that Earth's defenses were limited. Humanity had to rely on intelligence, creativity, and careful planning rather than force alone. A crisis emerged when a series of energy spikes disrupted satellite communications. The team worked around the clock to stabilize systems while analyzing the cause. The spikes were not random. They indicated attention, perhaps even a warning. Humanity had acted boldly, sending its first messages to the galaxy, and now it was clear that the universe had responded. Dr. Cross realized that every action mattered. The deadliest species was patient but observant. Each step humanity took was being recorded, assessed, and calculated. The Council's influence grew more complicated. Some members advocated for restraint, warning that humans were risking destruction. Others admired humanity's courage, recognizing a species that was capable of independent thought and ingenuity. Publicly, the Council maintained its stern warnings. But behind closed doors, it was clear that humanity had shifted the balance. Earth had become a player in a game that no species had fully understood, and the Council could no longer dictate terms. Humanity's actions had consequences not only for itself but for the galaxy. Within Dr. Cross's lab, preparations continued. New transmission systems were tested, capable of sending precise, intelligent signals to deep space. Captain Meta oversaw defense protocols, ensuring that Earth satellites and communication systems were protected from interference. The team simulated possible responses from both the Council and the deadliest species, preparing strategies for negotiation, observation, or survival. Humanity was learning to think beyond borders, to act with foresight, and to embrace responsibility on a cosmic scale. Public awareness remained high. Citizens continued to monitor the night sky. Schools ran programs about space and communication, and media outlets discussed humanity's role in the galaxy. Fear existed alongside fascination. People understood that survival was uncertain. But they also realized that boldness and intelligence could earn recognition from forces that humans had never encountered before. Dr. Cross often reminded her team that courage alone was not enough. Strategy, knowledge, and adaptability would determine humanity's fate. The deadliest species continued to make subtle moves. Energy fluctuations, minor disruptions, and unusual cosmic patterns suggested observation. Humanity's signals had reached beyond the Council, and now the species was aware of Earth's intelligence and creativity. Each anomaly, each pattern was a test of response, judgment, and capability. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta knew that they were navigating a delicate balance: show intelligence without provoking aggression, demonstrate capability without signaling weakness. The universe had become a classroom, and humanity was learning at the highest stakes. The world held its collective breath. Humanity had sent signals, demonstrated ingenuity, and attracted attention from a force that few species could encounter without fear. The Council had warned, observed, and reacted, but the deadliest species remained the real unknown. Earth's people were united in purpose, preparing for possibilities that had never existed before in human history. Coordination, creativity, and intelligence were humanity's tools, and courage remained essential. Dr. Cross watched the instruments carefully as another subtle pattern appeared. The deadliest species had responded to the latest transmission not with aggression, but with acknowledgement. The pattern suggested understanding, calculation, and perhaps even respect for humanity's ability to act deliberately. Captain Meta reviewed the data and confirmed what Dr. Cross suspected. Earth had passed a critical test, but the challenge was far from over. Humanity was on the edge of a cosmic reality, and every step forward would carry enormous consequences. The team understood one truth clearly: survival and recognition in the galaxy required more than obedience or fear. Humanity had to demonstrate intelligence, creativity, and courage in ways that could be observed and understood. Every transmission, every signal, every calculated action was a message to both the Council and the deadliest species. Humanity's place in the galaxy depended not on weapons or dominance, but on the ability to think, adapt, and act with foresight. As Earth's people looked up at the stars, a new awareness settled over the planet. Humanity had been noticed. The universe was observing, calculating, and testing. Fear existed, but so did determination and hope. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta knew that the next steps were critical. The deadliest species was powerful, patient, and intelligent, but it was also curious. Humanity had shown it could respond, adapt, and learn. The challenge remained, but for the first time, Earth's people understood that courage and ingenuity could shape destiny. Humanity had reached a turning point. The Council could no longer control outcomes entirely. The deadliest species was aware, watching, and assessing. The planet was united in purpose, balancing fear with hope, preparation with action. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta looked at the night sky, knowing that the universe had become a stage for human intelligence, creativity, and courage. Earth's people were no longer observers, they were participants. The galaxy was aware of humanity, and the consequences of every choice would ripple across the stars. Humanity had reached the point of no return. The Council's warnings had become a background hum, their threats distant compared to the unseen. Presence of the deadliest species, Dr. Elena, Cross and Captain Rajan Meta, understood that every action from this point forward would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The world had watched, participated, and prepared. Now it was time for humans to act with intelligence, courage, and careful audacity. The plan was daring. Instead of sending timid or cautious messages, humanity would broadcast a signal directly aimed at the deadliest species. It was a message that carried intelligence, curiosity, and the essence of human creativity. The signal was crafted carefully, using knowledge from decades of study, simulations, and observations. Scientists, engineers, and mathematicians around the world worked in harmony, knowing that a single miscalculation could provoke hostility. Captain Meta ensured the security of Earth systems, preparing defenses in case the species reacted aggressively. The broadcast went out silently, subtly, and deliberately. It traveled through deep space, precise and calculated, carrying patterns of human thought, art, mathematics, and philosophy. Humanity was not merely demonstrating its existence. It was demonstrating its intelligence, resilience, and potential for cooperation. Across the globe, teams of scientists monitored the signals, satellites and instruments waiting anxiously for any sign of response. Citizens looked up at the night sky with new hope and a sense of shared destiny. Humanity was no longer alone, and it had made the first bold step toward recognition. Almost immediately, anomalies appeared. Satellites detected energy patterns that had no natural explanation. Communication systems experienced subtle interference, as though the universe itself was acknowledging the broadcast. Dr. Cross studied the patterns carefully. "They have noticed," she said. "They are responding, but not with aggression. They are assessing, learning, and perhaps even curious about us." Captain Meta nodded, his expression a mix of caution and awe. Humanity had reached a new level of understanding. The galaxy had observed, and it had reacted. The deadliest species did not strike. Instead, it demonstrated an intelligence and patience that was almost incomprehensible. The energy patterns in space shifted in subtle, organized ways, suggesting communication of some form. Humanity had taken a bold risk, and it had been recognized. It was the first time that humans had acted in the galaxy and received an acknowledgement, not as prey or threat, but as a species capable of reason and creativity. Dr. Cross understood that this was unprecedented. Humanity had achieved something few species ever managed: the attention and consideration of a being far more powerful than themselves, the Council. Observing silently, reacted with a mix of astonishment and respect. Publicly, they maintained their warnings, but privately, they admitted that humanity's boldness had changed perceptions. A species that dared to act intelligently, with courage and strategy, could no longer be dismissed. Humanity had forced the Council to reconsider its role, to understand that Earth was no longer just a passive planet. Humans had become participants in the cosmic order. The Council's influence was still significant, but the balance of power had shifted subtly across Earth. Citizens felt the shift in small but profound ways. Schools and universities continued lessons about space and communication, now with new emphasis on humanity's place in the galaxy. Media outlets covered subtle cosmic events, discussing patterns and anomalies with cautious optimism. Ordinary people felt connected to something larger, a sense of shared destiny that had previously been unimaginable. Humanity had acted boldly, and the universe had responded. Fear remained, but hope and pride now outweighed panic. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta continued to observe and analyze. Each new signal, each energy fluctuation was a chance to learn more about the deadliest species. Humanity had proven it could act with intelligence, but the path ahead remained uncertain. There was no guarantee that the species would remain passive forever, and the Council's role in mediating potential conflicts was still unclear. Yet for the first time, humans felt that they were not entirely powerless. Creativity, strategy, and courage had earned a place for Earth in a cosmic arena that had once seemed impossible to reach. Humanity began to prepare for the future with a renewed sense of purpose. Communication networks were strengthened, satellite defenses upgraded, and new simulations developed to anticipate potential interactions with the deadliest species. Scientists and engineers collaborated globally, ensuring that the knowledge gained from the first broadcast would not be wasted. Humanity had stepped onto a stage far beyond its previous understanding, and preparation, learning, and adaptability became essential. The deadliest species remained largely unseen, yet its presence was undeniable. Energy fluctuations, subtle shifts in cosmic radiation, and patterns in distant stars all suggested awareness and continued observation. Humanity's broadcast had been understood, assessed, and acknowledged. The species' patience and intelligence were daunting, yet their curiosity offered a rare opportunity. Earth's people realized that survival and recognition in the galaxy would depend on continued careful interaction, intelligence, and respect. Humans had taken the first step, and now the path forward required wisdom and unity. The Council's private communications revealed something remarkable. Even among their most powerful members, there was acknowledgement that humanity had changed the game. A species that had previously been underestimated was now recognized as capable, intelligent, and potentially influential. Earth had shown that it could act deliberately, creatively, and with courage. The universe had noticed, and the balance of perception had shifted in favor of humanity's potential. Dr. Cross reflected on the journey. From the first mysterious signals to the careful preparation of the broadcast, humanity had navigated fear, uncertainty, and cosmic danger. Citizens, scientists, and leaders had acted together, combining courage with strategy, knowledge with preparation. Humanity had faced the unknown, responded intelligently, and emerged recognized not as weak or passive, but as capable participants in the galaxy. The challenge was far from over, but Earth had proven itself. Captain Meta understood the stakes as well. Humanity's bold actions had drawn attention, but they had also demonstrated restraint and intelligence. Earth had survived the first test, yet the future remained unpredictable. Preparation, observation, and careful action would continue to be essential. Humanity had learned that courage alone was not enough. Strategy, collaboration, and foresight were equally vital. The universe was vast, intelligent, and patient, and humanity had finally begun to navigate its complexities. As the planet looked up at the stars, there was a collective sense of accomplishment and wonder. Humanity had acted boldly, sending a message of intelligence, curiosity, and courage. The deadliest species had noticed. The Council had been forced to reconsider its assumptions, and Earth's people had begun to understand their potential. Fear had not vanished, but hope and determination had grown stronger. Humanity had taken the first step in a journey that would define its place in the galaxy. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta watched the subtle energy patterns from the broadcast. Understanding that the deadliest species was still assessing, the universe had responded to human courage and ingenuity. The next steps would be as important as the first. But humanity had learned that it could act intelligently, that it could be recognized, and that it could survive in a galaxy filled with forces far beyond previous understanding. Earth was no longer just a planet. It was a participant, an observer, an actor in the cosmic order. Humanity had faced fear, uncertainty, and unknown forces. It had sent a signal of intelligence, creativity, and courage. The universe had noticed. The Council had been challenged, and the deadliest species had paused, intrigued. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been acknowledged, and the potential for future interaction was real. Dr. Cross, Captain Meta, and the people of Earth understood that the journey was only beginning, that challenges remained, but that they had shown one truth: humans could act boldly, intelligently, and with courage, and the universe could respond. For the first time in history, humanity felt that it belonged in the galaxy not just as observers but as participants. The deadliest species remained a formidable presence, the Council a powerful authority, yet Earth had demonstrated that intelligence, strategy, and courage mattered. Citizens, scientists, and leaders alike understood the gravity of this moment. Humanity had faced the unknown and had been recognized. The stars, once distant and silent, had become a space of possibility, awareness, and hope. As the night sky stretched over cities, towns, and villages, people felt a quiet connection to something larger. Humanity had acted, been acknowledged, and learned. The universe had taken notice, and Earth had shown it could respond with intelligence and courage. Dr. Cross and Captain Meta, looking at the subtle cosmic signals, shared a moment of understanding. Humanity had taken its first true step into the galaxy, and the possibilities ahead were limitless, dangerous, and extraordinary.